Ibrahim Traoré visits a hospital and discovers that the cleaning lady is his adoptive mother. The sun was just rising over Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, when President Ibrahim Traoré made a sudden decision. That morning, instead of following his official schedule filled with meetings, he felt a strong need to meet the people directly. Without informing his usual security team, he announced that he wanted to visit the Delgado Ouedraogo National Hospital, one of the biggest in the country. A president must see his people's reality with his own eyes, he told his chief of staff, who tried to stop him. How can I make the right decisions from my office if I don't know how people live? Ibrahim arrived at the hospital in a simple car with just 2 quiet bodyguards. He wore a traditional Burkina shirt, and there was no official ceremony. The hospital director, informed at the last minute, rushed to greet him nervously. "Mr. President, we are honored. If we had known earlier, we would have prepared." "That's exactly why I came this way," Traoré replied gently. "Show me the hospital as it is every day." The hallways were full. Patients waited on simple benches, or even on the floor. Some recognized him and looked surprised and happy. Others were too worried or in pain to notice the man passing by. Ibrahim stopped many times, kneeling to speak to a mother with her sick child, shaking the hand of an old man whose eyes filled with tears at the sight of the president. "We are with you," he told each person. "We are working to make things better." But he could not ignore what he saw: old medical equipment, not enough medicine, tired workers. Paint was peeling from the walls. Drops of water fell from the ceiling, forming small puddles on the tiled floor. Dr. Ouattara, head of pediatrics, joined the visit. A man around 50, his face showed tiredness, but his eyes still held strong determination. "Mr. President, would you visit our intensive care unit? It's where we take the most serious cases, and where we need help the most." Traoré followed the doctor through a maze of hallways. As they turned a corner, the president's foot slipped on a wet spot. He almost fell but quickly regained his balance. "Be careful. The floor was just cleaned," said a woman's voice. Ibrahim turned and saw an older woman in a faded blue uniform, holding a mop and bucket. She kept her head down, clearly embarrassed to have nearly caused the president to fall. "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, still not looking up. "It's nothing, madam. I wasn't watching where I walked," he replied kindly. He was about to move on when something about the woman, maybe her voice, maybe the way she stood, gave him a strange feeling. A small shiver ran down his back. He stopped and looked more closely at her face under her traditional headscarf. "We should continue, Mr. President," said Dr. Ouattara, eager to show his department. But Ibrahim stood still, frozen in time. This woman, her hands tired from years of hard work, her face turned away, why did she look so familiar? "What is your name?" he asked suddenly. The cleaning lady looked surprised by the question. She slowly raised her head, revealing a face marked by age but still gentle. "My name is Aminata," she said in a soft voice. That name echoed in Ibrahim's mind like a distant memory. Aminata, a common name in Burkina Faso, and yet, it felt special. "Thank you, Aminata," he said, unable to explain the strange feeling inside him. He continued his visit, but he couldn't stop thinking about her. Something in her face brought back hidden memories, small pieces of a forgotten past. It was like he had seen her before, but couldn't remember when. The visit continued through the hospital, but Ibrahim's mind was far away. The image of Aminata stayed with him like a puzzle piece from his memory. He tried to focus on the doctors and their problems, but his thoughts kept returning to her. As Dr. Ouattara showed him the maternity ward, Ibrahim saw Aminata again, walking down a nearby hallway. He felt something strong inside him and politely excused himself. "Doctor, please continue the visit with my chief of staff. I will join you soon." Without waiting for a reply, he walked down the hallway and caught up with Aminata. She jumped a little when she saw him. "Sorry to bother you, Aminata," he said gently, his voice soft despite his position. "I would like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay." Aminata looked nervous. Her hands tightened on her mop. I didn't do anything wrong, Mr. President," she said, her voice shaky. "I know," he replied with a kind smile. "Tell me, how long have you worked in this hospital?" 23 years, sir," she answered, still not looking up. "I started working here after I left my village." "And which village are you from?" "From Kuogo, in the Sanmatenga province, in the north." Ibrahim felt a shock. Kuogo, that was the village where he spent part of his childhood after his father died. Memories rushed back clearly now. The smell of cooking millet, women singing at the well. "Did you know a woman named Fatima in that village?" he asked, his heart beating fast at the name. Aminata lifted her head. Her eyes met his. Her look showed deep emotion, a mix of surprise and recognition. "Fatima," she whispered. "Yes, I knew her well. She was your biological mother." Ibrahim felt his throat tighten. "So, you knew my mother? And me?" Aminata slowly nodded. Tears formed in her eyes. "I knew you when you were just a little boy, Ibrahim. You were only 5 when your father died." A heavy silence filled the space between them. In that hospital hallway, time seemed to stop. The sounds around them, nurses calling, voices on the speakers, people talking, suddenly felt very far away. It all felt like another world. "Aminata," Ibrahim said in a quiet voice, "were you close to my family?" The woman wiped a tear with the back of her hand, then answered simply, "I was more than just a neighbor, Ibrahim. But maybe this is not the right place to talk about these things." He understood. This hospital hallway, where anyone could interrupt, was not the best place for such personal memories. Still, they could not stop the conversation just like that. "Where do you live now, Aminata?" "In the Depoya neighborhood, sir. A small house I share with my niece." "I will come visit you," Ibrahim said. "Tomorrow, if that's okay with you. We can talk more." Aminata looked surprised. "You would come to my house? But it's just a small home. Not fit for a president." "It's not the president who will come, Aminata," he replied softly. "It's the child from Kuogo who wants to find his past." With those words, he returned to the official group. But his mind was far away. As he listened without focus to talks about the lack of antibiotics and surgical tools, only one question filled his thoughts. What role had this woman played in his life? Why did her face feel both so familiar and so important? Back at the presidential palace later that day, Ibrahim cancelled all his evening meetings. He locked himself in his office and opened an old photo album, one of the few personal things he had kept through all his moves, his military career, and rise to power. The faded photos showed a kind-faced woman, his mother, Fatima, holding a small boy's hand. In others, he saw the village, round huts, big trees where elders used to meet. But nowhere did he see Aminata's face. He called his assistant. "I need all information about a woman named Aminata from Kuogo, who works as a cleaner at Yalgado Hospital. Keep this request secret." That night, Ibrahim could not sleep. Childhood memories came back in pieces, like parts of a broken puzzle. He remembered a woman singing lullabies, cleaning his scraped knees, telling stories by the light of a kerosene lamp. Was that his mother? Was it Aminata? The faces mixed together, unclear in the midst of the past. The next morning, Ibrahim woke before sunrise. He had made his decision. He would go see Aminata, not as a president, but as a man looking for his past. His assistant had brought him a file with basic information. Aminata, 63 years old. Widow. Working at the hospital since 1998. Living in the Depoya neighborhood. Nothing unusual in her story, except her strong commitment to a humble job for so many years. Ibrahim dressed simply, in dark pants and a plain shirt. Only his driver and one security guard would go with him. No sirens. No big escort. Mr. President, his chief of staff reminded him, you have a video call with the President of Ghana at 11. Postpone it, Ibrahim replied calmly. Tell him I have an urgent personal matter. The president's car, with no official marks, moved through the busy streets of Ouagadougou. Morning traffic, street sellers, school children in uniform. Ibrahim Traoré was watching the everyday life outside the car window. This life felt far away from his current role, but also so familiar. Through the tinted glass, he saw his city again, real and full of life. They finally arrived in the Depoya neighborhood, a maze of small streets and modest houses. The driver slowed down near a pale yellow concrete house, with laundry drying in a small yard. This is the place, sir, said the security agent. Wait for me in the car, Ibrahim ordered. I want to go alone. He pushed open the metal gate, which creaked, and walked into the yard. A young woman was washing dishes near an outdoor tap. She froze when she recognized him. Hello, Ibrahim said simply. I'm looking for Madame Aminata. This is only the beginning. The story of Ibrahim and Aminata is far from over, and in the next chapter we'll follow the quiet moments that changed a nation's leader and perhaps a nation itself. If this touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this story with someone who believes in love, memory, and the quiet power of home. Stay with us. The journey continues soon, only here on For Us Africa.